Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to make this Wirework rose necklace, and this is what it looks like. So it's a simple rose in the design, you have there, and the stem and leaves as well, but it's actually then hanging upside down to add a bit of interest to it, and then I just added it to a chain here. So that's what it looks like. So it's pretty easy to do as well, because it's a simple design like I said. If you want to learn how to do it, then keep watching. So these are the two different gauges of wire that we're going to need. These are both silver coated regular round copper wire that I'm using. You can also use whatever you want to. The first one here is a thicker gauge. This is a 0.8 mil. That's going to kind of make the rose and also be the base wire. And then here I have a 0.25 mil. So that's going to be our weaving wire. So let's get our wire ready and let's get started. And then we'll need some lengths of our wire here. First of all, I have one length of my 0.8 mil wire, about 50 centimeters. So this is, like I said, what's going to make the rose and be the base wire. And then I have a length of my 0.25 mil wire here, of about 1 meter. And like I said, this is going to be the weaving wire for the stem. So then first off here, we'll need to take a length of a 0.8 mil wire, so the base wire, and we want to start off by making the rose. So what I have here is a pair of round nose pliers, and I'm going to go to the middle of my wire, so roughly the same length on both ends, on each side there. And then I want to go, so I have an okay sized loop, because we need to make a loop around these pliers here. So you don't want to go right to the tip, it's going to be a bit too small. So a nice sized loop, and then I want to just take my tails around my pliers here. So we basically get a full circle with the wire here right in the middle. Just like that. You can see there, we have that full circle. And then it's from here we then go on and start making the rose. So to do that, I'm going to hold the loop there on my pliers, it just makes it a bit easier. And we have the two tails going next to each other. This one up here is on that side and the one down here is on this side. So I want to make sure I'm going to be twisting my wires in the direction so they're kind of chasing each other there. It's almost like we're making a little knot there in the middle. So first off, we just want to kind of twist the wires against each other. So we make sure that that's going to make the loop around the pliers there stay in place. And this is going to be the very middle of the rose. And now I want to start chasing each other properly with the wires and also start creating more of the rose flower there. So what I'm going to start with is one length of wire. I'm going to bring that all the way around towards the other one, lift the other one up a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it underneath the other one. Making sure the middle is pretty nice and tight there. And then I've gone all the way underneath there, and then I like to bring this one up a little bit as well, like that. And then I take the one that's now behind, that now needs to chase the other one here, but then go underneath that, around to the other side. And then when that's in place, I lift that up a little bit as well. And then we go back to the one behind. So they kind of keep swapping places as well. Bring that around the outside and underneath, around to the front. And then lift it up a little bit. And that's basically how I'm building the rose from the center point. And all these little kind of, it's almost like the wires twisting around each other, and that's what's creating those petals, you could say, the look of them. And you just keep going like this until you kind of reach the size that you want your rose to be. And obviously we need to have lengths left on the tail, so you don't want to make it too large. But just keep building it like this, making sure that your twist or spiral here lays flat next to each other, all your goes around, that they don't start overlapping. So just keep going. So there now I have my rose here, the size I want it to be. So I'm going to take it off my pliers, and then we have the two lengths of our wire left, so the two tails you could say. Now I have kind of an outer one. I'm just going to go one more time behind the other one towards the back. Then I want to just flip it over, because what we then need to do is bring our wire through the loop on the back. That's also how we want to fasten it, but then move on to the next step. So the loop that we made where we held it on the pliers, and what I'm going to do is take the one that I just brought back and come from that side and go just straight through the loop. Pull it all the way through. I like to just hold on to the rose so that doesn't move around too much or go out of shape or anything. So like that. And then we want to do the same with the other one. Just going to push that away. So bring that again around the back and go through the loop. And then just bring the whole piece through, pulling it gently. And then I'm just going to look on the front here, see if I'm happy with how it looks, or if I need to adjust anything, because I'd rather do that now. So, if you think it looks nice, and you fasten both wires there, the tails, through the loop, then what we need to do is move on, because we then have the two wires laying like this next to each other. What I'm just going to do is grab a pair of flat nose pliers and just make sure they're laying flat next to each other when they're coming out from this loop. Just like that. And then you just want to make sure you go in and straighten out your wires a little bit, because they'll probably become a little bit bent or curved when you were doing this. So just straighten them back out a bit so they're then ready to start making the stem. And what we want to do is have them laying next to each other nicely and neatly, coming out from that loop on the back. So something a bit like this. And then this is then where we need to start getting our weaving wire into play as well. So I take my length of weaving wire that I've already cut off here, and then I take my rose back out, and then we need to just get towards the end of the weaving wire, just have a little bit of a tail to hold on to, and put that behind up where the rose is. Hold on to that tail, and then I want to start making a weave around these tails of the base wire, and that's what's going to then create the stem as well. So what I'm going to do is use a diagonal weave, so it's coming behind, and I'm going to go around the bottom wire here, so that means from the top down between the two wires, and then I'm just going to push it as far up as it'll go. So when you look on the back, that's pretty much all the way up to where the wires are coming through the loop. You could also flip it and work on the back, that's up to you. So that's around the bottom wire. Then I need to come around the bottom here, over the top of both wires, push that all the way down, and then up between the two wires, so like that, and then around just the top wire on its own, and push that down, and then come around down behind the back of both of them, and that's basically the weave. So again, I'm going to go just around the bottom wire on its own, so that means down between the two, and then over the top of both of them, then up between the two from behind to go around the top one on its own, and then again down behind both of them. So like I said, that's the weave, and you just want to make sure to keep pushing it close together, and if you need to, if you're doing it working on the front same as me, just flip it over every now and then, make sure you push it up and that it looks nice and neat. So keep doing this for a little bit until we pretty much reach the point where we want to add in our first leaf. So then when I've been weaving a little bit here, I've reached the point where I want to add in my first leaf. So what I'm going to do is take a pair of flat nose pliers, or chain nose, and then I'm just going to add it on the upper side here. So whatever wire you want to add it on, we need to get all the way down, separate the wires out, right to where the weave ends, and I want to bend that wire outward and back, kind of back on itself. So just upwards again, as nice a sharp angle as you can get, like that. And then we need to get the leaf shape in place. So I like to kind of grab it a little bit further out and then start getting a curve in. And obviously make it the size as well that you want to, also so it matches nicely with the rose itself. Not too big and not too small. So you get a little curve in there. That's going to be one side of the leaf. So I'm going to bring it up. Then when you're happy with it, then I'm going to go to what's going to be the tip of the leaf. So right there. It's a bit more of a curve. And then put my chain nose pliers right before where the tip is going to be. Then I'm going to take the tail and bend that against my pliers back in towards the other wire. And then we obviously want the curve on the other side of the leaf as well. So I like to grab from further out and then pull it inwards. That makes a nice curve there. If you need to adjust how it's sitting, just do that. And I like to just sharpen up that tip by going on each side of the angle and just squeeze a little bit. That makes it sharper. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom of the leaf here, because we then need to bring this tail of the wire back in alongside with the other one. So I'm just going to grab my pliers before the point where I want it to bend, and then bend my wire against the pliers, back downwards again, laying right next to the other one in the same position as before. Straighten it back out a bit here, just like that, and there you can see we have the little leaf added in. And then what I want to do is also fill in the leaf there so it becomes more cohesive. So I'm going to, first of all, I have my weaving wire ready here from the previous wrap that I did, coming down behind. I'm going to go around the bottom one like that, and then I just need to bridge a little gap here, so I'm just going to do a couple of wraps around the bottom one, because I just want to get to the bottom part of the leaf, to the very final angle that we put in there. So something a bit like that. And then we need to cross over to the other side, but I'm not going to be using the diagonal weave anymore. I'm going to go in, as I'm filling the leaf in, I'm going to use the figure of 8 weave. So I'm going to go straight underneath and then around behind the back of the upper wire. But then, instead of continuing here, like I said, I want to fill in the leaf, so we need to work our way towards that. So what I'm going to do now is I need to get to the end of my wire, because this is just a small space that we're working with. So the end of your weaving wire, and put that down through the leaf, because we're coming around from the behind around that top wire right now. That also then helps bring them together and keep it in place now, the shape. And then we just need to do another wrap or two here, basically until we're in position so we can start wrapping from side to side to fill in the leaf. So just around here a couple of times. And then obviously I'm going to swap position so it's easier to weave here. I think I'm just going to do one more, and then I should be able to start going to the other side. Just like that. So now to fill it in, like I said, the figure of 8 weave, I'm coming down through the leaf around the bottom one. So what I'm going to do to go to the other side is just go behind the top part and come around the top of that, and then down through the leaf and pull the wire all the way through. Push it down. Every time you do a wrap, make sure to push it down so it's nice and tight, and then again around the top one. Always want to do 2 wraps on each side before moving on. Down through the leaf again. Just like that. And then, because that's 2, we need to move to the other side again, because that's what we're doing, we're filling it in. So I'm going behind the bottom one now, bottom half of the leaf. And then around the bottom of it, and down through the leaf again. Pulling our weaving wire all the way down through. And once it's through, make sure to push it down, nice and tight. And then through once more again. The second time on this side, just like that, and you basically keep going like this, and you're going to start filling in the leaf, and what you're going to do is you're going to end up getting to the point that's the widest point of the leaf, and after that we're going to still do the same technique, but it's going to be then graduating downwards again to a point. So when we get to that point, I'm just going to show you how I deal with that, because what the wire wants to do is naturally kind of slip on the base wire, and we don't want to get too many gaps on there. So we now reach that midpoint there, and we're going to start working from the widest point towards the tip. And like I just mentioned, that when you do that and you're weaving in that area towards the narrow tip, then your weaving wire is going to want to start slipping towards that, so it can become a much more uneven weave that you get. So to avoid that, or to make sure to get as little of that as possible, the way I do that is I'm going to just go over to the other side here that I'm due to weave on next, and then as I'm going to be wrapping around that wire on the opposite side, I hold the wraps there, you could say, on the side that I just did. I'm going to hold them with my other hand and push them downwards. I'm just going to be going through here. So down through the leaf again to get ready for my next wrap on the top side of the leaf. And as I'm pulling that tighter, I'm making sure to push the last wrap on the bottom part of the leaf. And then push the top part in tight as well. And then through the second time, pull it all the way through. Avoid any kinks that might form. So if you see anything like that where it's like a loop as you're pulling it through, make sure to undo it before you keep pulling. Again, push down the bottom part, so the opposite side of what you're working on. And there we go. And that wrap is then nice and tight as well. And then I'm going to move to the bottom side again. So that means as I'm wrapping on the bottom side, it's going to go through here. I need to hold down the wrap that I just did on the top, so I'm always on the opposite side. My other finger there, hold it down, and then I pull the wrap on the bottom tight. And that's basically how you want to make it nice and neat when you're weaving from a wider point to a narrower point. Through there. And you want to keep doing this all the way until almost you reach all the way to the tip. And then I'm just going to finish off the wire there. So then when I reach the tip there, and I pretty much haven't got much space left to weave across, then what I want to do is to finish it off nicely. When you filled in the leaf, we have a little bare base wire there right at the tip, so we want to just make sure to blend that in. And what you're going to do is, wherever you've ended up, you just want to basically keep wrapping your weaving wire around the base wire, moving from the side you've ended up on over towards the opposite side. So all it's doing really is blending it in, so we don't have a bare base wire showing through. So just keep wrapping from that one side there. And when you then basically coil around that base wire with the weaving wire across the other side, then I'm just going to finish off the weaving wire here, because there's nowhere else to go obviously. We have more work to do here, but we're going to have to start a new one. So I'm just going to finish it off by making like I'm going to be doing another coil. But then towards the inside of the leaf, I'm going to cut off the excess, like that. And then get a pair of chain nose pliers, and if you just put your finger over it, you can feel there's a little tip of the wire. And you want to make sure to then take your chain nose and then squeeze that down, and I like to just roll it a bit, the plier, in the direction that the weaving wire is going around the base wire, to basically make sure to tuck it in, and it ends up in the inside of the leaf so it's not sticking out and not going to catch or scratch on anything. So that's then that leaf and that part finished off for now. So what we need to do is go back to the stem here and obviously keep working. So how you want to do it really is up to you, but you're going to most likely have a long enough length left of your weaving wire that you just cut off to continue. So I'm just going to continue using that, and it's basically just starting a new weave, just how we started out in the beginning. So I'm just going to put a little tail that I can hold on to behind, go back to where the stem is, so around the base wires here, just separate them out a bit, and then pick up that diagonal weave again, because that's the one I'm using for the stem, around the bottom one, then around both, and then around the top one, and then down behind again, and then that's the weave. So you just pick this back up however long. If you want to add another leaf, I'm going to add another one on the other side here just to kind of even out the balance a bit. So I'm going to weave down to the point where I want to add that leaf, and basically make that leaf in the exact same way that I did this one. I'm just going to be doing it on the other side. And then after that you want to weave a bit further on, and then basically when you're happy with how it looks, then all that's left to do is finish it off. So I then finished up the rest of it here, made my other leaf, and then also reached the length that I want it to be. And then obviously the right side up it looks like that. Now also what I want to start doing as I'm getting further on, start making a bit of a curve to the stem here, to put a bit of shape into it, just to give it a bit more life and movement. So once you're happy with how it looks, then what we need to do is get rid of all the excess weaving wire tails. So you just want to do that the exact same way as I showed you on the leaf, So right at the end, go down to where your last wrap is, cut off so there's a tiny little end left, and then you just take your chain nose, squeeze that in, and just roll it in a little bit in the direction that the wire is going. And that tucks it away, and just do that with all of them until you can't feel the ends of the wire anymore. So now what there's left to do is just finish off the base wires as well, and obviously make something here so we can use it and hang it from a chain or whatever we want to hang it from. And for that, what we need to do is make some loops up here with the base wires. So what I'm going to do is, we have the two base wires lying right next to each other. I'm going to take my chain nose, and right where my weave finishes, one wire I'm going to bend in one direction here. So just kind of forward towards the front of the rose, and then the other wire I'm going to bend in the opposite direction. So basically they end up like that, because then what I'm going to do is take some 6-step bell making pliers here. You can also use round nose pliers, but I prefer these because each step is a certain size, so you know what size you're going to get, and also the whole thing, that little step is the same size, whereas round nose pliers, they taper. So if you kind of want to use them next to each other, the two loops are actually going to be two different sizes. So I'm going to be using this one here, and I'm just going to use the second smallest one. And then this one is going in this direction. I'm going to bend that around towards the other side, over the top of it. And then the one from the other side, I'm going to bend also around the top of it. I'm going to make little circles here basically. Take it out, I need to reposition my pliers to make it full circles, and just bring them all the way around back to basically where you bent them to in the first place. Just like that. So that now we look here, we have two circles and they're lying right next to each other. So all that's left to do now is cut down the excess, because we then use these circles to attach to whatever chain we want to use. So I'm going to cut them off basically where, when I've cut them, the very end of the wire is going to go right into itself and create that full circle. And rather cut it a bit too long than too short, because you can always cut off a bit more, but obviously you can't add in if you've already cut it off. That one side and then the other side. Cut off the excess here. And then you just want to close them up. It's almost like closing a jump ring in a way, you could say. But the closure is on separate sides, so it's still a very secure one. So there we go. There we now have the loops in place. And that's just how you want to use it and hang it from a chain. So obviously you just want to attach that, and it'll hang really nicely with that bit of a shape to it as well, and be kind of an upside down rose. So here is then the final rose, and I've hung it on a chain as well. So you get a really nice and simple effect of the rose, but it's also nice and elegant because it is a simple design, but obviously a bit of a twist with it hanging upside down. So that's what it looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.